And the when the margins came in, we asked for certain clarifications, certain exceptions, certain real life cases. Exchange has been issuing circulars from time to time, modifying it from time to time, and we think we've all got it. But then sometimes you tend to be a little. You may sometimes miss the final points. So this webinar is just to have a quick revision of all the possible situations where we can report margins, where we can't report margins, where we can collect penalty, where we cannot. This will become more important as allocation hits in from 1st August along with its penalties. But today we are just on the exchange side, not on the CC side. We already had a webinar on allocation data. Today is not the Q&A for allocation. So moving ahead, I said we. In case of ICCL, we are using MGTM. In case of NCL, we are using MG30, and so on and so forth. This we have been all doing, and we have kind of hopefully figured it out. If we report short, there are penalties ranging on 0.5 to 5%. If you report false, there's penalty at the rate 100%. Of course, there are some caps that have been introduced, but that's still a big number. Now, how do you report margins? The right place to look is the exchange FAQs. The last one, last consolidated complete FAQs came on 31st July 2020 from one of the exchanges, the larger ones. Then the FAQ wasn't revised, it was just modified on 31st August, 28th September, 27th November, and 12th October. Similar circulars have been issued by all the exchanges. This is done in coordination with each other so that there is no regulatory arbitrage. For the purposes of today's webinar, we have taken this one set of FAQs, but they are all the same. But if you have any questions with any particular exchange FAQs, you have to refer to that exchange FAQs. Now, what are the issues we face around margin reporting? They are twin. One is when should CC levy penalty on us? Right? This is levy itself. What we are allowed to report, what we are not allowed to report. And second is, if some penalty has been levied on us, what penalties can we pass on to the clients and what we cannot? We will discuss these two main issues today, and we'll go through with examples. First, the levy of penalty. Let me take you through the requirements. Penalty is levied when collection is less than the margin dues. However, the collection has various components. So I've just listed those components. So what are the various components? Around 13, 14 of them. Number one, fund balances in the ledger across segments. Of course, that we can use it for showing margin collected. Bank guarantees that we receive from clients or approved banks. I'm not talking about third-party bank guarantees. For those brokers who are sufficient deep pockets, they can just take a bank guarantee and put it in the Almira, and that can be used as margin. Similarly, FDRs, you can take a FDR, get a lien marked in your favor, keep it with yourself, no problem, and use your own money with the CC. Demat securities which are not declared as liquid with appropriate haircut in pledge. That is something we have taken. I'll just build on that. These typically in 3-in-1 accounts, funds in client bank account which are blocked on T-day and actually moved on T and T+1, that can be considered for margin reporting. Now, number 6, this is a common query I get. In case shares are sold and transferred to the broker pool, but we did not do early payment. For whatever reasons, we forgot, there was a system problem, so and so. Then, to the extent of margins on the sale position only, you can treat it as margin collected. However, in case we manage to do the early paying, so the margins on the sale position disappear at the end of the day, then 80% of the API value is available for further purchases or position derivatives, so on and so forth. Further explained in the example. So 6, please be careful. Some people do 7, even when 6 is not done. In the sense, early pay is not done, still you consider 80%. Probably, I think you're pushing your luck. It may not be permitted. Now, in case of MTF, after all the first we had exchange-wise, segment-wise ledgers, then we had segment-wise ledgers, then finally all ledgers were treated equal. In all the reporting, the clearing corporation are treating MTF ledgers and MTF books of accounts as separate. Exchanges and clearing corporations are treating MTF as separate and trading as separate. So you cannot look at the MTF books for the purpose of trading. The only exception is if there is an MTF trade where the margins is levied in the normal segment, then margins only to the extent of that trade of MTF, margin trading and funding, can be the MTF ledger can be used to report margin as collected for those trades. Number 9, checks received and collect. It's already part of financial ledger, but the checks received have to be deposited on T+1. And if it gets returned, then the entire effect of check has to be removed and margin has to be reported as short. Another component is fund security received from NREPI's account by the pay-in deadline can be considered. This pay-in deadline is a dangerous word. I'll take it as an example. 80% of KUSA shares can be taken as margins. Now, in case of BTST trades, this is a nice complicated paragraph that we all leg out and try to figure out. In BTST trades, where securities are routed through the KUSA account and the EPI on T+3, value of shares sold on T+1 less value of shares purchased on T can be considered as margin. In peak margin cases where it came later, the sale margin of EPI can, if it is done, EPI is done by T plus by end of day, you can consider margin received in peak. 80% of EPI can be considered in peak. Securities transfer pool, even if EPI is not done for the purpose of sale, can be considered. Margins due in different segments at different points of time, if you don't do double counting, can be reported as peak. In case of cash segment, especially when the pain is on T+2 in the at around 10:30, then if you have collected margin on T and on T+1, then on T+2 it is deemed to be collected even if the ledger becomes 0. And again in peak, if client gives money in the morning, it is in the evening, there's no end of day balance, but still it can be considered as margin. This is now on some clarifications. Only illiquid listed shares is not permitted. Balance all is permitted for taking margins at the client. Illiquid group 3, those securities. CC list is of course smaller. Approved securities, prudential limit. But CC won't give a limit, but we can give limit to our clients for non-illiquid shares. We all know this. All of us have some kind of advisory received from time to time. Shares have to be valued at T-1 closing prices and T-1 values. Now, again, a quick revision on the haircuts. Listed securities, closing price of T-1 and haircut of T-1 VAR. Unlisted mutual funds is NAV of T-1 and haircut 10% flat. G-Secs and T-bills, closing price on the NDS segment, NDS platform on T-1 and haircut is 10% flat unless CC gives some other number for that. Now, just 10 or 11 examples just to get everything sorted. I'll go slow because in the last webinar, I just kind of rushed through and I got a feedback that was slower on the examples. This is a fair. I'll start with simple, make it complex, and a simple in between so that the brain can take it easier. Let's take one scenario. Client is 200 credit in cash segment and 50 debit in FO segment. Now we have to look at across segments. So 150 is a ledger credit. Client purchased a trade to trade stock of 150 on Monday, and there's no prior, no later trade. Just keep it simple. Now we are supposed to collect minimum 20% margin, so 20% 150 is 30. How do we report? On Monday, the peak due will be 30. You can show up to 150 collected. On EOD, again, the due will be 30. We still collected 150, no problem. Tuesday will be a similar position, no problem. Wednesday, the ledger becomes nil because 150 was credit and 150 ka debit ka bill ban gaya. So, what do we do about peak that comes for the first 1 or 2 snapshots? Peak due is 30. We can show peak collected is 30 because it's clarified that if you've collected previously, there's no difficulty. EOD is nil, so it doesn't matter. This is hopefully the simplest of the problem. Now, again, this is a simple one. Peak fails. Client gave 100 rupees margin in the morning at 9 a.m. Did intraday trades, squared up, and in the evening, it took the money out. Intraday peak came as 110. Oh. So for peak due, it will be 110. We can show collected only as 100. There will be 10 rupees shortage. There will be penalty levied on us. We cannot recover this penalty from the clients. Full stop. End of day is nil. Doesn't matter. Since it was intraday, nothing will come on Tuesday, nothing will come on Wednesday. So it will be simple. Now, this is something that irritates all of us, but this is the current requirement. In the morning, he transferred funds of 200 rupees and trades derivatives, where the margin rate was 200. So peak margin was 200, lovely. In the end, the span went up, there's some volatility, and the EOD margin was 210. And then somehow the client was so sweet, he transferred 50 rupees by 10 p.m. in the night. And on Tuesday, he squared up the position. We are assuming the mark to market. So Monday, the peak due was 200. We collected 250. The 200 we had in the morning plus 50 we got in the evening. It will come as peak because it's the highest ledger of the day and received during market. No shortage. EOD was 210, but we have collected 250. No problem. On Tuesday, the peak of 210 will come to us. Hopefully, there's no change the next day. So again, we have collected 250, no shortage. End of day on Tuesday is nil. So again, we don't have any problem. Now, we have a mark-to-mark situation. Remember, upfront has to be taken in advance and mark-to-mark can be taken on next day. So Monday 9 p.m., client transfers 200 rupees. Thank you very much. He traded derivatives. The peak margin was 200. End of day margin was 200, but there was a mark-to-mark loss of 15 rupees. Now, this is on Monday. On Tuesday, client has transferred 10 rupees to us. And then on Wednesday, he squares up the positions. So, and there's no change in rate of margins. So how do the things move? On Monday, peak due was 200. We had collected 200, no problem. End of day, the margin due was 200 of span plus ELM plus 15 of mark to market. Out of which 200 we had, 10 we got the next day. Now we have time of 1 day to collect. So on Monday evening, we'll report 210 received. The 5 rupees is short. This penalty can be recovered from the client because it was a mark to market, it was not up. So this is where we stand on Monday. On Tuesday, the peak due was 200. Let's assume rate of margin. Now 5 rupees, there was a debit bill of 15 rupees on his in his books, and he transferred 10 rupees. So this 5 rupees debit, your ledger is only 195 because in derivatives, pain starts before 10 market hours. So peak, where we have to report 195. Now there are two lines of thought. There's one line of thought which says, was the peak ledger balance was 900, was 200. That is morning 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock was 200 rupees tha. But some say no, ye nahi chalega. So depending on what interpretation you take, I've taken the strictest interpretation to as a matter of abundant precaution. So so 5 rupees short and end of day 200 is on the 195 short. There's no end of day, of course, there's no confusion. The bill is debited and we have a 195 balance. These penalties can be recovered from the clients. Now, इसके ऊपर पूरा market always fights or argues. We discuss internally. When he traded, I took the upfront margin. Now all this happens is still an effect of mark to market. It is not upfront. So I have collected. I should be penalized. Even if I penalize, I should be allowed to take it back from the client. Recover from the client. But the current interpretation we get from the exchanges is again, Wednesday there will be a peak of 200, collector will be 195, 5 rupees short. We cannot recover this either. End of the day, because he's cut out the position. We can discuss all this in the Q&A session, but just there. Now, multi-leg, this is something that is clarified so well. So, client did NEFT of 200, he took position commodity of 190, then square of commodity took position of currency at 180, of 180 margin. Then square of currency took position derivatives of 200, and he stuck there. And I also put a little complication. Commodities he made 10 rupees loss, and and currency he made 20 rupees profit, and this is all booked. And Tuesday is the position. So where do we stand? Monday peak commodity due was 190. It's collected 200, no problem. EOD commodity due 10 rupees mark to market loss was there. Crystallized obligation. It's the right term problem. Now we have collected 10. Why? Because 20 mark to market trade came. We can collect by T+1 tomorrow. So that is available. There's no shortage there. Peak currency was at 180, no problem. EOD currency nil, no problem. Peak equity debt is 170. I think it's wrong. EOD equity debt is 200, collected 200. I have got the numbers of. Particular, let's say, particular. Sorry, peak equity debt should have been 200. But in any case, it was not short. On Tuesday, peak equity debt was 200. But we have collected 210 because 200 rupees purana pada tha. We got another 20 rupees profit, 10 rupees loss. So there's no shortage. And this goes. I've taken these examples just to explain the concept to everyone. Now, let's take an NRE situation. I'm talking about two NRE clients, client A and client B. Both purchase shares worth 100. Very good. Now, by paying, that's Wednesday, funds of client A received, but client B there's some problem with the exchange system or with the banking system or in our office, something went wrong and we received on Thursday. Okay, what are the implications? For client A, peak was 20, that's 20% 100. We collected 20, end of day was 20. This is both Monday, Tuesday, same thing. In case of client B, because the money did not come with on the paying day, there is no, that exception is out, that component is out. So we have to report a 0 and penalty will be levied. And we cannot pass on this penalty to client because it was upfront margin. On Wednesday, and Wednesday, again, client B, there's a peak. And even that can be. So one mistake leads to penalty on 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So one has to have very good systems and processes. On the sidetrack, I don't understand why members don't take margin shares as pledge replace for the NRE clients. Though funds may, of course, we cannot take money, it creates complication. But I wonder if there's some legal requirement that does not permit us to take margin pledge. Please explain me. Please point it out in the Q&A session. If not, then probably that's the simplest thing. Tell your NRE client, भैया तो share pledge कर से काम कर ले, हम NRP ऐसे पैसे उठा लेंगे ताकि margin का problem नहीं. And if the entire market follows this system, then it's so simple. Anyway, now scenario 7, we are talking about EPI. And EPI which became a success. Okay, so client sold shares worth ₹100, he did EPI. Then client bought shares worth ₹400 on the same day. On Thursday, he made 300. Actually, it's irrelevant what he did on Thursday. Okay, because where's the story khatam ho jayega. So Monday, the peak due was he bought shares, sold shares of 100 and bought shares of 400. So on 500 rupees, the peak due was 100 rupees, 20% of 500. Now we have to show collected 100 because 20, the shares that he sold, 20 against that deemed to be collected because EPI done. And then 80 is further, 80% further available for the other purchases that he made. So there's no shortage there. End of due, EOD, the due will become 80 automatically. All right, because EPI ho gaya, so the effect of the sale side has disappeared. Now the margin due is 80, 400, 20% 400. Now we have collected 80 because we are allowed only 80% of 100 rupees. Now this 80% limit is only for T day. On T plus 1, we can consider 100% benefit. Anyway, Tuesday the peak due was 80. We have collected 100. EOD was 100. Wednesday peak due was 80. Now we have collected 80 because it's deemed to be collected because Monday, Tuesday ko collected. Iska ledger to 0 ho chuka. Or maybe debit bhi ho gaya. So this is how this will go. Now scenario 8, EPI has failed. All right. Client sold shares worth 100, bought 100. Shares transferred to pool account. Remember, transferred, not lying in his account. We can't say how pada hai to deemed to be alipena. Pool mein aa gaya, but EPI couldn't be failed for whatever technical reasons. Now we cannot use that 80% for other positions, derivatives, other purchases, so on and so forth. But because we realized the problem on Monday, let's assume that we managed to do the EPI on Tuesday. So what happens to the margining? Monday, peak due was 40 because 20% of purchases, 20% of sales of 100. We collected 200 in pool. No, we collected 20 because in the pool account we already had just a minute. All right. So, sorry, there's some disturbance. So, peak due was 40, but we have, so the sales side, because the money has come in the pool, the shares have come in the pool account, 20 rupees we can shares collected, 20 will go as short, and we cannot pass on this penalty to the client. And the same thing goes in the UD. On Tuesday, we managed to do the EPI. So peak will still be 40, but we have collected 100 because EPI is done. There's no shortage. End of the day becomes 20 because the sales side obligation disappeared. So no shortage. And Wednesday, peak was 20. Settlement is complete. We can show collected 20 because on Tuesday we had collected the full margin. So it's just a carry forward. Moving ahead, KUSA, this is a simple example. Client buys shares of 100 rupees, shares are lying in KUSA of 50, which was cleared on Thursday. So we should be able to collect. Remember in the KUSA example, they say debit ledger direct kar dena. Everywhere debit ledger deduct karna hi hai. Okay, so what KUSA baja ke remind kiya, abhi bhul na jana tu. So on in this KUSA example, peak due was 20, collected 50, EOD 20, 50, 20, 50, 20, 50. So all is well. This is not a problem. MTF. Okay, client gives 500 rupees cash, which is accounting MTF books. Normal ledger is 0. Then he purchases 1000 shares for MTF. Remember, not for trading. So margin due is 200. We have collected 200 is fully collected because we can take MTF ledger balances to the extent of MTF dues. So this is fully collected. There's no difficulty up to Wednesday peak. Check late situation. Now everybody loves those checks. So but remember we have to deposit a check on T+1. So client gives suppose 500 rupees check on Monday, but somebody in the office was very intelligent. He deposited on the Wednesday, and he had purchased shares worth rupees 100 on Monday. Yeah, peak due on Monday is 20. You cannot pass on to the client. Okay, that penalty is yours because collection is nil. You cannot consider a check which you deposited on Wednesday on Monday. You can consider it only on Tuesday. Similarly, EOD will go short too, but Tuesday may peak EOD collected, Wednesday peak collected, EOD nil. So just be careful about this. So I've taken these examples just to revise all the components. Ki tum kya kar sakte ho? Kya margin mein even today I get boss, mera EPI fail ho gaya, main kya karu? Boss, sales side is not a problem. Oh, good, I can report. Many back office softwares may not take into consideration these scenarios. You may probably need to do a manual override. But you should know what you're allowed to do. You should know what you're not allowed to do. Now, this is all about levy of penalty on us. Or itna penalty lag gaya. Oh. Some penalty we can recover from the client, some we cannot. This is where, now remember 31st July 2020, FAQ said, we cannot pass on penalty with respect to short collection upfront margin to the client. Upfront margin cash is 20% and derivatives is annual. Well, there was an exception in July 2020. In case of check return cases, we can collect from the clients. But that was dropped with effect from those clarifications issued on 12th October 21, where collection of upfront margin shortage is not permitted under any circumstance. Kahani khatam. But other than upfront, for example, concerted crystallized obligation, delivery margin, other margin like mark to mark, additional margin, this we can collect by next day, or in some cases T+2 day. If the client doesn't pay, the penalty will be levied, but we can recover. But upfront margin, no compromise. Now, some members have actually, I know, missed the 12th October circular, or probably not interpreted even the 2020 circular properly, and may have collected margins from client incorrectly. Exchanges have got to know of such cases, a few such cases. They've informed the members, by penalty because you are not supposed to collect. And now there's a compliance in a half-yearly declaration along with the internal report on this topic. Subject matter of much discussion, but that's what it is. So, what are the steps to be taken now? Kind of check if the short reporting that we had reported for such a long time was due to upfront or non-upfront. Non-upfront is all the other internal. If it's a non-upfront, no problem. We have record from the clients, it's okay. But it was a part of upfront, we need to refund it. After 12th October, even the check return cases need to be refunded. This is the current law, the way it's interpreted. It's not that we agree with it, but then if you don't like the law, you make a representation, have it changed. Not following the law or rules, regulations is not an option available to any of us. Now there's a risky, the client actually gave the mark-to-mark money on Tuesday. But on Monday, I reported as short because it received on Monday. Now you were supposed to report mark-to-mark received in the Monday file, even if you received on Tuesday. If our office has made a mistake and CC has levied a penalty, T+5 has passed, CC is not going to refund it. And it is an interpretation issue of our office. So I don't think it's fair on us for us to levy it on the clients. So probably such mistakes have to be borne out of pocket. Two small additional points that I want to bring. But this is short margin putting in MG13, MGTM, which are the files. There's something also called segregation, which have started. Application has also started, which will have been implications. So I thought I'll just raise this issue some points to ponder. The daily segregation file, right, captures almost all the EOD components. The components, they capture EPI, they capture FD receipt from client, PG receipt from client, blah, 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 blah. But they don't capture all the peak components. For example, peak security is not captured, though peak ledger balances. Everything else probably CC knows. So at some point of time, margin collection be connected to segregation in an appropriate manner. That should be interesting. I believe there are already certain alerts and reports which are being generated by CCs and asking questions. Boss kya chala tumhare? CCs or exchanges as the case may be. And allocation. At some level, this is also worth what can we allocate. So everything that we which is a part of any of these components, all right, or for that matter, and therefore a part of all the segregation received from client components, that can be allocated. Okay, can be allocated, except replace securities value to the extent limits are given by CC. Remember, value of pledge securities, replace securities, everything is available in the segregation file. So that's interesting. Please open those files again. I know as on today, the segregation files and is back office एक file बना ऊपर load कर दिया. People have forgotten what's there inside. It would be interesting to have a relook at it, revise it, because that will help you in allocation. And these three numbers, the segregation, allocation, and MGTM margin reporting, MGTM margin reporting, there has to be a logical connection between the three. It's going to happen. In today's program, of course, last time we had this queries, post the program says we are putting it here. This program can be, like all programs of BBF, can be viewed on BBF's YouTube channel, BBF India, anytime you want to watch it. The PDF, the PPTs we at the seminar registration page, we always put the PPTs of the seminar. We put it by end of day, because if we realize some mistake in the PPT, we just correct it so that it doesn't create a mess. It's available here in the seminar presentation download. This is what the screen looks like. At the presentation can be downloaded from here. So yep, here we are requesting the team. In the Q&A session, we have representatives from PSC, from NSC, M6, and SEDEX, all the exchange inspection departments, our friends and enemies. So I should call them enemies if I can. Who guide us and who also scold us and punish us if we go wrong. So they are here to take the questions if there's anything you have to ask. So I request Crispy or Ujjwal to kindly
yes, sir.
Start the Q&A session.
Noted to term, sir. So waiting for hands to come in and we'll start. Abhishek ji, your question, please. Abhishek ji, your question.
Hello.
Abhishek ji.
सर जैसे एफएनओ में अगर किसी का पोजीशन होगा, मानो क्लाइंट का 10 लाख रुपीस का पोजीशन है और मार्केट में आज एमटर्न की वजह से उसको लॉस हो गया 10 रुपीस का, तो नेक्स्ट डे जो पेनल्टी आएगी या सेम डे पेनल्टी आएगी, तो वो किस तरह से हैंडल करना चाहिए? क्लाइंट को पास ऑन करना चाहिए कि ब्रोकर ले सकता है? कैसे होगा इसमें?
सर वो एक पूरा एग्जांपल उस पे आपको दिखाया था, कौन सा आपको you want me to go through that example again?
नो सर, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, बट
नहीं, ये पर्टिकुलर सिनेरियो में एमटर्म का एक पूरा एग्जांपल बताया था।
अच्छा ठीक है, मैंने मिस आउट किया होगा मे बी। ठीक है, मैं फिर से देख लेता हूँ।
Scenario 4 has answers to. I have taken this example, so do have a look at it.
ओके ओके,
Thank you.
दैट्स इट।
But having said that, Abhishek ji, point is mark to mark के जो mark to mark due है, the client has time till next day to pay. If he doesn't pay, then we have to report as नहीं आया. This penalty on us, we can recover from the client. That is a fundamental principle.
ओके
Only upfront margin, penalty and upfront margin, we cannot recover from the client.
Okay.
Because बिना margin के उसने सौदा किया है. Okay, of course we'll have issues like anyway, we'll come to it.
और सर यहाँ पे जैसे कोई क्लाइंट का हेज पोजीशन है और उसने ब्रेक कर दिया और ड्यूरिंग द मार्केट अगर उसका मार्जिन पुट आउट होता है, तो ये केस में किस तरह से हैंडल करना चाहिए?
इसका कोई सोल्यूशन नहीं है करंटली, बट दिस इज अ जेन्युइन प्रॉब्लम वी ऑल फेसिंग. हेज पोजीशन स्पैन बेस्ड मार्जिन है, एंड वही उसने स्क्वायर 1 लाख स्क्वायर अप किया, दूसरा लाख स्क्वायर अप करने में 1 नैनो सेकंड का तो फर्क आएगा, इट्स नॉट मोर. एंड यदि उसी वक्त पीक का स्नैपशॉट कैप्चर हो गया, so then it becomes a big problem. But peak, you can the only solution for that is if such a thing happens, you have to take the client, you have to call the client, bole boss, for some time your margin was out of whack, you give me margin right now. So your peak reporting is usually the peak reporting for the money received from the beginning of trading hours till the end of the day. So if you receive money there, even in the segregation file, you'll show it in the peak ledger. So probably that's the only way you can get away with it.
ओके सर।
Chetan ji, your question, please. Kalpesh ji, your question, please.
यस सर, ये क्वेश्चन सर एमसीएक्स का मार्जिन के बारे में है. 14th ऑफ द मंथ को मैंने क्रूड का पोजीशन लिया एंड मेरे पास सफिशिएंट मार्जिन है, एंड 15 को वो टेंडर पीरियड में जा रहा है. सो मैं 15 को मॉर्निंग में आके सेल कर रहा हूँ, बट मेरे को पिक मार्जिन लग रहा है जो मैं पास ऑन नहीं कर पाता हूँ बिकॉज पिक मार्जिन है वो.
Can M6 team take this? Anybody from M6 team can take this? Sandra? Kalpesh, you hold on to a question. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you now, Sandra.
Yeah. See, there was a problem in 15th EOD file. Okay. Because of that, the margin we have to recompute, and we have recomputed and send it on this Saturday. Accordingly, with that file.
Wait sir. वो सर, I am talking about general problem. क्या होता है, हर मंथ का 14 को मेरे पास मार्जिन है, 15 को कोई भी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट जा रहा है टेंडर पीरियड में, जो मैं स्क्वायर ऑफ भी करता हूं, तो मुझे मतलब जो एक्सेस मार्जिन है वो पिक मार्जिन में आ जाएगा. टेंडर मार्जिन, टेंडर पीरियड जो मेरे पास मतलब 14 को तो मेरे पास एंड ऑफ द डे मतलब सफिशिएंट मार्जिन था.
ठीक है.
15 को बिकॉज ऑफ वो टेंडर पीरियड में जा रहा है, मेरे को पिक मार्जिन ज्यादा आ रहा है.
हाँ, बोले.
तो पिक मार्जिन क्या हो, मैं अगर समझो मतलब क्या होता है, क्लाइंट बोल रहा है मैं नहीं दूंगा, तो मैं पेनल्टी पास ऑन नहीं कर पाऊंगा, जबकि मतलब 14 एंड तो मेरे पास सफिशिएंट मार्जिन था.
वो स्क्वायर अप कभी किया, 14 को कर दिया.
15 को मॉर्निंग में जैसी मार्जिन बढ़ा हुआ दिखा, वैसे उसे स्क्वायर अप कर दिया.
वो कल का जो एंड ऑफ डे का जो मार्जिन है वो ये बीओडी मार्जिन है ना.
नहीं, मॉर्निंग में बिकॉज ऑफ टेंडर पीरियड मार्जिन बढ़ जाता है.
हाँ, नेचुरली वो जो उसका एक्स्ट्रा 5% ऐड होते जाता है.
राइट, तो मतलब उससे स्क्वायर ऑफ भी कर दिया तो मेरा पिक मार्जिन आ जाएगा वो 5% जो.
यस सर, वही बीओडी मार्जिन में तो लग जाता है, बिकॉज एंड ऑफ डे को मार्जिन है उसके बाद वो 5% जो है प्री एक्सपायरी मार्जिन वो ऐड हो जाता है।
मैं 14 को अगर क्लाइंट के पास से मांग रहा हूँ, बोले मेरा सफिशिएंट मार्जिन है। हाँ, मतलब ये क्लाइंट को, ये पेनल्टी क्लाइंट को पास ऑन कर सकते हैं कि नहीं, वही जानना है। बिकॉज 14 को इसका सफिशिएंट मार्जिन था तो मैं काट भी नहीं सकता हूँ पोजीशन।
वो इनिशियल मार्जिन में नहीं होता है ना
सर, आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट पीक मार्जिन ऑन 15।
Yeah. So Saundar,
Yes.
I'll just rephrase the question of Kalpesh Bhai.
yes
So especially
yeah, I
this is,
understand the question.
so
He is
the
asking-
specific query is, if a penalty is levied, can
Yes.
he recover this penalty? Because the standard, is it a part of upfront margin or is it a part of other margin? Probably that is the
It is- it is not part of a upfront margin.
Kalpesh Bhai, does that answer your question?
मींस सर मैं
If it is not part of upfront margin, then you can recover. And Saundar is confirming it's not
Yes,
part of
yes.
upfront margin.
It is not part of upfront margin.
सर एज पर सर्कुलर में पीक मार्जिन सेकंड डे कलेक्ट ही नहीं कर सकता हूँ। सेकंड डे मेरे को पीक मार्जिन आ रहा है, मैं पीक मार्जिन नहीं कलेक्ट कर सकता हूँ।
अरे see,
Peak
upfront
margin. हाँ, बोलिए उत्तम जी।
कल्पेश भाई, आपका सवाल ये था कि ये वाला मार्जिन मैं क्लाइंट से कलेक्ट कर सकता हूँ कि मतलब पेनल्टी क्लाइंट से कलेक्ट कर सकता हूँ कि नहीं, करेक्ट?
या
सौंदर्य जी बोले आप कर सकते हो। अब
Yes.
क्या क्वेश्चन है आपका?
ओके सर, सेकंड सर।
नहीं सर, स्टिल
हाँ, इस जवाब से आप कन्विंस नहीं हो तो वापस पूछ लीजिए, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है।
Yes, yes.
Not convinced, sir. I'll explain the I'll rephrase the question.
Hmm.
तो मेरे पास कोई X commodity open था, मेरे पास पैसा पूरा था,
ठीक है।
ठीक है। 15 से वो टेंडर पीरियड में जाने वाला है।
Yes.
15 मॉर्निंग आ गया, 15 मॉर्निंग में टेंडर पीरियड में चला गया, तो 15 को तो पीक मार्जिन आएगा उसका एज पर टेंडर पीरियड मार्जिन, एज पर
Yes. Yes.
लेकिन 15 को एंड ऑफ द डे उसने कैरी नहीं किया पोजीशन। हाँ, लेकिन अब 15 को उसने कैरी नहीं किया, लेकिन 15 का तो पीक मार्जिन आ गया,
वो 5% तो आएगा ही ना।
हाँ, तो सर मैंने तो 14 तक तो मेरे पास पूरा पैसा था,
बट 15th नहीं है ना, 15th पोजीशन था आपके पास।
सर वो जो टेंडर मार्जिन है वो तो मुझे एंड ऑफ द डे लेना है ना, एंड ऑफ द डे के पहले लेना है।
यस,
तो सर मैंने तो पोजीशन काट दिया 15 को।
वो 15th को काटा है ना, 14th का पोजीशन है, 15th को ही काटा है ना।
टेंडर पीरियड 15 से चालू हो रहा है।
हाँ, 15th को ही पोजीशन काटा है आपने, 14th काटा है क्या?
ये सर 14।
अरे कल्पेश भाई, आपका
डेट बराबर बताइए।
See, Saundar, I'll have to button. There was some position on 14th,
yes,
which got carried forward to 15th morning.
yes,
And in 15th, during the day, they spread it off. And 15th
Yes.
ko tender shuru hua.
yes,
So the tender margin came in the picture.
yes,
Now, the client did not pay the tender margin, the broker reported short.
yes,
Okay, and the tender margin is coming as a part of peak margin category. So, can this, if the client has not paid the margin and spread off the position, can it be collected from the client? You have said it can be recovered from the client. Now,
yes.
Kalpesh Bhai is not liking your answer and repeating the question again in different manners to get the same answer out of you. And I still sticking with your answer.
Yes.
Yes, Kalpesh Bhai.
Okay,
ये हाँ बोल चुके हैं, अब भी आपको इनका जवाब पसंद नहीं है, दूसरा सवाल पूछना चाहते हैं?
ओके सर,
नहीं,
सर और एक क्वेश्चन है।
हाँ, पूछिए।
Suppose if my one of my custodian participant client,
Yes.
for some reason उसका ट्रेड डीवीपी हो गया,
हाँ,
ओके, बट लेकिन एंड ऑफ द डे अभी उसका पीक मार्जिन तो आएगा, उसने उसको रफ कर दिया, ठीक है, उसका सपोज पीक मार्जिन आया, सपोज या कोई भी मार्जिन आया, मार्जिन आया, ईओडी मार्जिन आया, कोई भी मार्जिन आया, बट द प्रॉब्लम इज अभी द कस्टोडियन इज गिविंग मी द सिग्निफिकेंट थ्रू मेल और व्हाटएवर कि उतना पैसा मेरे पास पड़ा था। कैन आई शो दिस एज कलेक्टेड?
I think this is a question for the stock exchanges mostly. Kalpesh Bhai?
Yes.
Would somebody from BSNC take this question? Sorry.
This can be reported as collected, as the custodian is confirming that the availability of margins. A trading member can report it as margin collected.
In spite of
Or
DVP,
peak margins.
in spite of
Right
DVP.
now DVP, it can be
For
considered as,
peak margin reportings, you can report it as collection of margins.
there'll be a peak as well as EOD, right?
Yeah, it can be both. Either peak
It will be both. Sai, in the
It
case
can be collected. It can be reported as margin collection when the custodian is reporting as availability of margin.
ठीक है कल्पेश भाई, is that a clear clarification?
अच्छा सर, just to confirm, going can be confirmed through this mail.
Yeah, usually if you write an email to the exchanges, they usually reply. But do one thing, write an email again to the compliance team and write a CC to brokers forum, and we'll try to solve the problem. But we'll know where the answer comes from.
So my query was what kind of supportory documents we need to maintain if tomorrow inspection team comes. So is it a mail?
Probably an email should be sufficient. Email from custodian should be sufficient.
The balance information over email will be sufficient.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Sagar ji, your question, please. Sagar ji, your question.
Hello.
Sagar
Subhash.
हेलो यस उत्तम जी थैंक्स सर जी मैंने क्वेश्चन पूछा था Q&A में कि अगर मंडे को किसी क्लाइंट को सौदा लेना है
I'll interrupt you. आप Q&A में कोई भी सवाल पूछ रहे हैं, nobody is reading it. It has to be
okay. Okay, sorry.
This is for the others.
Okay. तो सर मुझे ये पूछना था कि अगर मंडे को मैंने एज अ अपफ्रंट मार्जिन क्लाइंट से चेक लिया है, ठीक है, और क्लाइंट ने ट्रेड ले लिया, फॉर एनी रीजन अगर वो चेक डिसऑनर हो जाता है,
आपकी बैंड बच गई।
तो सर इसमें तो मेरा एज अ ब्रोकर का गलती नहीं है ना सर, मुझे कैसे पता है क्लाइंट के खाते में पैसा इतना पड़ा ही होगा या नहीं पड़ा होगा?
सॉरी, बस सी 12 अक्टूबर 21 से पहले वो क्लाइंट की गलती थी, उसके बाद आपकी गलती।
ओके, उसके बाद मेरी गलती है।
जी हाँ
सर, और दूसरा क्वेश्चन मेरा ये था कि फिजिकल जब इम्पोजिशन स्टार्ट होता है, मतलब फ्राइडे से, फॉर एग्जांपल फ्राइडे,
डिलीवरी मार्जिन की बात कर रहे हैं,
डिलीवरेबल मार्जिन की बात कर रहे हैं।
डिलीवरी मार्जिन इज नॉट अपफ्रंट मार्जिन। यदि
नो
क्लाइंट
हाँ
डिलीवरी मार्जिन नहीं दिया, उसकी पेनल्टी लगी तो क्लाइंट से रिकवर कर सकते हैं।
ओके, ठीक है सर, ठीक है।
सॉरी,
थैंक यू।
I preempted a question because मुझे पता था आप क्या पूछेंगे।
ओके सर, ओके।
Vardhan ji, your question, please. Vardhan ji. Subhash ji, your question.
हेलो हेलो
Vardhan this side.
सर, हेलो।
हाँ सुभाष जी, we can hear you.
ओके सर, मेरा एक क्वेरी था कि क्लाइंट का लेजर डेबिट है और उनका जो पीओए का होल्डिंग है वो अगर हम लोग उनको सेल के लिए अलाउ करते हैं और आफ्टर सेल उसका हम लोग अर्ली पेन भी करते हैं, बट क्लाइंट का लेजर ज्यादा होने की वजह से अगर वो इसमें आता है मार्जिन 20% की तरफ से जो आएगा ये अपफ्रंट मार्जिन में, तो क्या हम लोग उसको रिपोर्टिंग करने में पूरा कंसीडर कर सकते हैं रिपोर्टिंग, या वो शॉर्ट में चला जाएगा?
मैं आपका क्वेश्चन रिपीट करता हूँ। एक क्लाइंट का लेजर डेबिट, ठीक है, सपोज ₹1,00,000 डेबिट जी, उसने 10,000 का माल बेचा जी, 10,000 का माल बेचा तो आपका उसका शाम को अर्ली पेन कर दिया, हाँ, तो ईओडी मार्जिन तो 0 है, हाँ, लेकिन पीक मार्जिन आ गया 2,000 रुपए पीक मार्जिन आ गया जी, तो 2,000 यू कैन रिपोर्ट एज कलेक्टेड। यस, ओके, मतलब FAQ में बहुत क्लियर लिखा हुआ है जी। थैंक यू सर। कैन द एक्सचेंजेस रिकन्फर्म दिस? सो जस्ट
इट इज करेक्ट,
it is correct. हाँ,
थैंक यू सर।
ओके सुभाष।
Vardhan ji, your question, please.
Sir, can you please explain the annexure 8 again?
Scenario 8. Okay, I'll just share the screen and do it.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
It's Vardhan asking question.
Mitchell, just a minute, yeah. Just 1 minute. Huh?
Yeah.
This is EPI fail. Okay. Client sold shares worth ₹100. He bought shares worth ₹100. The shares moved from the client account to pool account. It is not lying in his account, it is moved. Okay. So we are, so there is trouble. So the peak due, 100 का माल लिया, 100 का माल बेचा, that's 200, 220%, ₹40. Against ₹40, you can show ₹20 as collected because what he sold has come to you in your pool. So the sale side margin is received. For the purchase side, you have nothing. So it is short. And that penalty will be levied, which cannot be passed on. Same with EOD. Now by Tuesday, we have done the pain because the system problem is solved. Then Tuesday, Wednesday becomes normal. But Monday, there's trouble. So now what is the question around this?
So that was the question. If a client has bought the purchase, if client has bought the security, so why he have to pay this? EPI has done.
But, sir, repeat that question. Sorry.
Sir, अगर client ने माल बेचा है, माल बेचने के बाद जितना बेचा उतने का ले लिया,
आपने अर्ली पेन नहीं किया ना?
हाँ, तो बस वही था।
early payment होता तो कोई दिक्कत नहीं, EPI fail हो गया तो गए काम से.
True that. Thank you, sir.
Pankaj, your question, please.
So friends, please don't get me wrong. It's not that I support all the answers given, but this is what the current regulations are. I'm just interpreting the current laws and requirements. And these requirements are made by the exchanges in consultation with authorities, regulator. So if there's any answer we don't like, we can always request the regulator to change the answer. But till we don't get a positive answer, this is the answer. Anyways, going ahead.
Pankaj, your question, please. Mittalji, you can start, please.
Yes, sir. Thanks. Sir, like Sagar had asked one question regarding like physical delivery margin. So what if client doesn't pay? Suppose on the like very first day, if he comes in the shortage, let's say 10%, next day 20%, till expiry day, if broker doesn't square off and if that margin gets increased to 40%, will the penalty will come? As you said, no delivery, there is no penalty on delivery margins. So what if broker doesn't?
No. That's not what I said.
Penalty is on delivery margins, but that can be collected from client.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, it can be passed on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There
sorry.
will be a penalty.
I said, I mean, I'm correcting myself. There will be a penalty, but we can pass on till like till the time he doesn't fulfill the margin requirement.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question is related to the EPI. Basically, just now you gave the example, like, I mean, whatever stocks has been delivered in the pool account, we can consider it is as a margin, like
For the sale against that share.
for the So let's say, suppose if you know a client has Reliance worth 1 lakh and client has sold that, okay, and suppose if that client buybacks the 80% of the valuation, okay, now
Of Reliance itself.
Okay. And suppose if there is like the 20,000 is the net available. Let's say first scenario is, I will try to give you 2 examples of the same scenario. So now in first scenario, if my settlement person does the EPI for 1 lakh, will it be considered as a 20% margin, like fulfillment?
Okay, there are multiple ways. So you're saying उसने 1 लाख का Reliance बेचा और 80,000 का वापस ले लिया.
Correct.
See, so now 20,000 I hope will do EPI.
Correct. That is the answer.
So if you I'll complicate it further. Suppose you do 20,000 EPI, so you get 80% of 20,000, and anyways it is you have to pay margins. So your margins will be clear. Now suppose you do EPI of the entire 1 lakh.
Yes.
Okay. Now sometimes some depositories release the EPI by end of day. Some accept it and release it on T+2. Correct?
Yes.
So I'll change your example. Suppose a client sells 1 lakh worth of Reliance in afternoon 12 o'clock. Can you do the paying at 12:01?
At 12 you said, and at 12:01 you said. Hardly.
So उसने 12 बजे बेचा, within 1 minute you did the early pay. Have you done a bad thing? Not really.
No.
Okay. And you allow him to buy shares. 80% तेरा हो गया, कर काम.
Correct.
And then he ends up buying the same shares. Okay. Suppose he buys पूरा 1 lakh and becomes 0. So have you, as a broker, you can't do anything about it, right?
Correct.
So have we collected the margin is the question. But now when you did the early paying to CC, will CC accept it and release the margin? Yes, it will, right?
Yes.
So it's a early paying accepted by CC. So if I understand the circular, early paying accepted by CC can be considered. But can the exchange confirm or refute what I said?
But sir, I see that CC will accept the early paying basis on the client wise obligation. So there is no client
at 12 o'clock. Sandeep, see, today early paying of securities can be done even if there's no obligation. In theory, I can suppose I'm planning to sell 100 crores worth of shares at 12 o'clock. I can do early pay at 11, पूरा सेट हो गया, फिर 12 पे बेचता हूँ तो मुझे मार्जिन नहीं लगता, करेक्ट?
Right.
सिमिलरली सपोज 12 बजे मैंने बेचा तो एक बार मार्जिन लग जाएगा, देन 12:02 को मैंने अर्ली पेन किया तो 12:30 तक मार्जिन रिलीज हो जाएगा, करेक्ट?
Right, right.
तो ये हो गया. नाउ 12:30 रिलीज के बैठा, फिर एट 3 o'clock the client says I would like to buy back the same shares. Should I stop the client from buying those shares? There's no logical reason.
Right, right.
Or I can sell, no, तूने जो बेचा वो नहीं ले सकता, कुछ और ले ले. See, stock markets or capital markets or MIS, we stakeholders, we are here to serve the investors. Investors are not here to serve us.
If EPI success happens, then
Yes.
that can be considered as margin collected.
Correct.
If there is no EPI done, then that cannot be considered. If
That-
EPI is done post market, then there will be a margin shortfall.
Mithil, that answers the question?
Sir, but EPI, like post market, I mean, we doesn't have a mechanism of doing like every, let's say, every half an hour.
Circular clearly specifies that you can give limit to the client post EPI success is done. If you are saying that you are giving limits even if the client is selling from his demat and the EPI is not done, then that is not the spirit of the circular.
It has to be successful EPI, Mithil. The main, that's the spirit, right, Sai?
So what I understood,
Yes.
like from Mr. Sai, like before allowing any sell transaction, we need to have like our order should ask like 20% upfront margin.
No. No, this is not what Sai said. This is not the right interpretation. Point is, EPI ka, there are certain exceptions given.
No, I'm not saying EPI, sir. I'm saying
Then,
any sell. So Mr.
Yeah.
Sai said,
see,
if
any-
shares are in, if there is a demat holding, okay, if there is a demat holding, client should have a upfront margin before doing a sell transaction.
No, yeah. I mean, this is no. In fact, number one, for any transaction, there should be upfront margin. But there are certain exceptions. EPI is an exception. You read the circular. It says if you do EPI by end of day, the peak is also deemed to be collected. The end of day margin also deemed to be collected. Plus 80% also available for other trades done during the day. Okay. Now this is, it's already written in black and white, and in fact, I also pointed out in my presentation.
So I
So
can.
point is now this is exception given. Now exception or comfort given because seller se margin lena doesn't make sense. Now when that is given, now we complicate that matter and make it a right or something, or then it becomes very down. It's a very slippery slope here. So in your particular case, client sold 100 rupees ka maal, he bought back 80 rupees, 20 ka early paying kar diya, all is well, there's no problem. If he sell lakh rupee ka maal during the day and you early paid in during the day, so that's okay. But he has already sold 1 lakh, bought 80,000 at 4:35 o'clock. You know 20,000 का ही obligation है, लेकिन आपको 1 lakh का early paying करना है, so that is not in the right spirit. That's what Sai is saying.
Correct.
In fact, even you'll agree with that.
Yes, I absolutely agree. But
issue क्या है?
the problem is like कि अगर same script buy कर रहा है तो 20% का EPI मैंने कर दिया, but अभी 20% का EPI कर दिया तो exchange same day तो 80% valuation ही consider कर रहा है ना उसका, और मेरा upfront pick requirement 20% है, तो वहां पे सर 4,000 का shortfall आ रहा है ना, वो problem है सर.
Oh, so
आप समझिए.
he sold. Okay. अच्छा.
तो पहले तो उसने बेचा था लाख रुपए का, तो अगर आप पिक की बात कर रहे हो तो पिक तो बराबर ही था ना.
In that case, Mithil, probably what you have to do is move the shares to the pool and move it back to him. You can't do EPI, and so his sales side is taken care of.
अच्छा, okay, तो वैसे चलेगा. I mean that can be done.
I don't will reconfirm with the CC, but
yeah.
If somebody sells shares and transfers to your pool, then margin for the sale is considered to be received. And in your particular case, you're seeing the peak will become end of day is not a problem. Peak is a problem.
Peak is a problem.
Okay, so you'll get a peak of 20,000. Jabki end of day you have option only to report 16,000. So that creates a issue for you. Is it? So in your example, किसी ने लाख रुपए का माल बेचा, उसने CGI का ले लिया. His peak will be 20,000. His end of day will be 0. But the early paying benefit is 16. So 16 minus 20 is 4,000 is a problem for the peak.
Sir, ये
Right.
problem पहले से आज
Yeah.
problem पहले से.
See, we are doing a revision.
Yes,
So it
yes,
is.
yes.
So we're not. This is a revision of whatever is happening from 2020 till today, and
The problem is that no one is giving no one is giving the solution. No, I'm not expecting exchange to give the solution. We are going to vendors. We are going to vendors.
Have I understood the question properly?
Yeah. We have told them कि आप same script है तो 75% CFS दो, और अगर if it is different.
But let's see if Sai can respond to this. Sai or anyone.
Yes,
So
I
we don't
categorically
want-
said,
Yeah.
as he was rightly saying, that his risk management system platform has to have this credit facility for sale to restrict to the availability of margins to the
Okay.
thing.
Perfect, Sai. That's a fair answer. But I'm asking one more question. Again, if a client sells the shares and the shares are transferred to the pool account, even if not early paid in, it is considered as margin received. So in this case, if he's just sold the shares and he transfers that 1 lakh shares into the pool, then can he report 20,000 margin and then return the shares back next day if he bought it back? Is that against the spirit? Because he sold the point is just that बेचा उसका माल था. ऐसी बात नहीं है कि उसे short sell कर दिया कुछ. Will that be okay? Though the letter of the law seems to say okay, but it will be nice if a spirit is also bounced off with all of us.
The shares which are received in pool account can be considered as availability of margins.
So, Mithil, that is that probably answers your query. Though it increases the work, but yeah.
Yes, I know. Sir, my colleague has this sub question on this. He will ask.
Sure. I can hardly hear. Mithil, probably have to repeat.
Just a second. Sorry.
The client, he has given an EDIS mandate. Okay, during the day he is given for 1 lakh shares. He sold the shares. He authorized the TPN and all. After during the market hour, he bought again. He bought back that 1 lakh shares.
Yeah.
Now there is no obligation to the CC paying. So we have not done the EDIS paying and all, but there will be a
there will be a penalty you can't recover.
There will be a penalty and we can't recover.
We can't.
Sir, but in this case, like as you,
So I'll clarify. This is the current requirement. Now what we can do is we can make a representation to the CCs for the consideration that was in such cases where there's a EDIS mandate, please allow us to report the margins collected. That's what we want, right?
Correct.
But that is subject matter of representation that we can make. We will.
No, but currently the clients.
So today we can just interpret the current requirements, those, and we can take suggestions for changes, but we cannot interpret what cannot be interpreted in the current framework. Because when again, I'll something in your favor. When this was designed, EDIS was not probably in anybody's mind, right?
Yeah.
So those skip ho gaya. There's some things fall between the cracks. It is the duty of us as market participants and associations to bring it to their attention. And boss, the MI is a very good people. If wherever there are genuine matters, they try their best to convince the authorities to give us the required relaxations.
But it should be taken into consideration as early as possible.
So point is taken, sir. ASAP, sir.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you,
sir. So there is, one suggestion which exchanges are giving since last 2-3 years in inspection. Your reporting haircut and your release haircut should be the same. When I say release haircut, reporting is like when we report, margins to the exchange against the whatever margin charge, and release haircut comes to comes into the picture when we release certain amounts to the clients. When there is a quarterly settlement, when there is a generally funds. I would say mandatory release would be a quarterly settlement, other than if client requests.
So number one,
time,
sir, I'll interrupt. In case of quarterly settlement, you don't need to release securities plus security. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Okay,
I'm talking about funds only, sir.
Funds, okay.
Because in case of funds, what happens actually? Just a second.
Yeah, sir, you could rephrase the question, join back in the 10
Yeah,
minutes.
sure. Actually, this question has been asked from the inspection department. I will just reframe that.
Yeah, that would be nice, sir.
And I'll come back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next question, please. Speak.
Yes, sir. Girish bhai, your question, please. Girish ji. Neeraj ji, your question, please.
And we thought इसमें ज़्यादा Q&A नहीं आएगा.
Richa ji, your question, please.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, Neeraj ji, yours.
सर इन मास में जो डिलीवरी मार्जिन होता है ये रियल टाइम पे अपडेट नहीं होता, ये यूडी पे अपडेट होता है.
हो सकता है, हाँ.
तो सर ये तो रियल टाइम पे होना चाहिए ना, क्लाइंट से पेमेंट मांगना होगा उसका हम तो उसी समय मांग लेंगे.
ठीक है सर, सजेशन नोटेड सर.
थैंक यू सर.
Richa ji, your question.
Hi, hello everyone. I just have one question. I want clarification on what you call upfront margin. So I refer to the SEBI circular which was issued in 2019, wherein paragraph 4.1.2 it is stated that members are required to mandatorily collect upfront VAR margins and ELM margin from their clients. The clients must ensure that the VAR margins and ELM margins are paid in advance of trade. So the word in SEBI circular, even in 2020, the word was there that applicable upfront margins are required to be collected from clients in advance of trade. So when we speak about upfront margin, is it necessarily when the word is spoken, so it is in advance of trade? But now when the interpretations are coming up, it is seen that even the day-to-day margins that after when M2M is computed and everything, that is also being considered by the exchanges upfront margin.
No, not the upfront. M2M margin is not considered upfront margin, Richard, that's not correct. But your question probably I would slightly rephrase. Upfront margins as applicable in advance of the trade. So upfront margin contains VAR, span plus ELM as the case may be. In cash market, it's a flat. Now, suppose at 11 o'clock I did a trade, so the going rate of margin is 11.2 was 20%. Sorry, it was 30%, and I took 30% from the clients in advance of the trade, and he traded 11 o'clock. By the evening, the margin has become 31%. So that 1% currently exchanges are treating it as a part of the upfront margin.
Correct.
Which seems a little against the spirit. Upfront is upfront. Upfront cannot be what is going to happen in the night. I dream in the morning and assume, and so upfront as applicable. I think you mentioned those terms, Richard. So the 1% margin that goes up in the evening is not really upfront. It is the increase in margin, and any penalty on that probably should be permitted to be recovered from the client. Would the exchanges like to comment on this?
I would really request NCDX, MCX to comment on this.
So what is upfront? What is upfront margin? Upfront,
exactly. That is what is my question altogether. Upfront margin is upfront margin. अभी अगर मेरा आज trade finish हो गया.
Yeah, Richard, I'm on your side. ऐसा ना करो, रुको. So point is, what CCs or the spirit is, don't let the client trades beyond their capacity. So you take margin from him or her. Now, if you don't take, now I want to put disincentive on you as a broker. If you don't take, I'll take penalty from you and you can't even recover from the client. Amazing. And I think whoever thought of it was a brilliant. वरना तो client को penalty लगाते रहो चलता रहेगा. But यहाँ तक भी in spirit, I am in concept, I cannot argue beyond a point. But then when I have taken upfront, applicable margin at the time of the trade, and the rates of margin go up at the end of the day. If CC says I'm going to penalize because of a risk management, there should be a margin system, but not allowing me to pass that penalty on to the client seems very harsh, and probably I wonder what the logic is. If this is what Richa, right? Mota moti.
100%. So I have a subsequent question, but yes, first question is this.
After this, if any exchange could, the specific question is the margin that increases during the day after the trade has happened. Is it upfront margin or is it not upfront margin?
I'll take this.
Yeah, yes, I.
Starting from 2020, we defined that upfront margin. Before that also, in the sense, any volatility during the day has to be collected by the client on T-day itself, even if it is EOD increase in margins. Upfront margin came in 2020, wherein we specified any margin which is available by the client before trade is considered to be upfront margin, and during the day volatility, if there is any increase in margins, then also that is to be considered as an upfront margin only, because VAR plus CLM has to be considered as upfront margin. Okay. And going forward from 1st of August, for peak margins, there is a levy, but end of the day margins and the margins at the time of trade, it has to be considered as upfront margin.
So the exchange is sticking to their stand. A request to the exchange as a suggestion, please consider that this change in any change in rate of margin due to increase in VAR, not because of increase of position. If there's any penalty, most clients keep little extra, right? If there's any penalty, please permit brokers to pass on that part of the penalty to a client, which you can check in inspection, audit. This is a suggestion. Please make note of the same. Whether or not to accept that suggestion is definitely your prerogative.
Noted, sir.
Richa, you had a subsequent question.
So on this, a subsequent question, suppose the day ends, okay? Now next day, M2M gets, since you maintain a ledger and everything, M2M gets added and everything. So now for next day, will this margin, which will be now the client is supposed short by 20,000. Now this 20,000 next day becomes automatically short only. So now for next day, is it called an upfront margin? Or for next day also, this will be termed as M2M margin, and for this penalty can be passed on.
अरे नहीं यार, एक बार लेजर में डेबिट हो गया तो अपफ्रंट मार्जिन कहाँ रहा है? Suppose it's like this, I give you 100 rupees upfront margin. ठीक है, you derivatives में position कर लिया. Out of which 20 rupees I use for something else. Say cash में delivery ले लिया. तो इसे लेकिन no example, I'm building example. तो obviously आप बोले उसी तरह यदि मैंने आपको जो 20 रुपया दे रखा है, उसमें से 2 रुपया मार्क टू मार्क लॉस में यूज कर लिया और 18 रह गए, तो आप ये नहीं कह सकते कि अपफ्रंट मार्जिन अपने 20 में बस पड़ा. I think that, don't you think that's a stretch, Richa? Because I've used up what I had given you.
No, I agree that I've used up. I'm just asking for next day computation, will that margin penalty can be passed on to the client or not?
If T वाला pass on नहीं कर सकते तो T plus 1 तो दूर की बात होगी. Sai, I'm fighting on your behalf because I'm just being on the logic.
Right.
Uttam ji, Kaustav here from NCT.
Yes,
sir. So taking a scenario कि VAR change नहीं हुआ है, but you need to agree कि upfront margin is a continuous requirement. So if amount is taken at the time of trade, it should remain with the broker till the position, assuming the VAR is not changing.
Once there's a mark to mark loss, it's no longer lying with the broker. But that's the spirit, I suppose.
Okay, so just that, if you can.
This is a current interpretation. I think there's a case for the broking community to have it interpreted in a different manner, but this is current interpretation consistently followed by all the exchanges so far. Richard.
Yeah, it's only a request, if we can make a representation in this regard.
Yeah.
कहीं तो हमें थोड़ा सा हटीने दो.
नहीं, the thing is, client को सौदा करने से पहले मैंने पूरा मार्जिन लिया.
Correct है.
फिर उसके बाद आप मुझे पेनल्टी कैसे लगा सकते हो? That is what hurts. ठीक है, being penalized for not doing a job wrong, double negative, or doing the job correctly, that hurts. Okay, that's all. It doesn't seem right. That is what we keep on feeling. Even if the client is not given the increased margin, and as earliest I can do is square up with the next day. But again, if you go through our own example, which I read, I have to pay a penalty for day T, and I have to pay a penalty T plus 1 in spite of me being following the spirit, but square up his position. फॉर एग्जाम्पल मंडे को उसने सौदा किया, 100 रुपए का मार्जिन था, शाम को 110 हो गया, बोला बस मार्जिन दे, क्लाइंट बोले मैं नहीं देता, कोई बात नहीं, ट्यूसडे मार्केट खुला, मैं तेरे पोर्शन से क्या कर दिया, बट देन आई एम गोइंग टू बी चार्ज शॉर्ट ईओडी मार्जिन फॉर मंडे एंड आई एम गोइंग टू बी चार्ज शॉर्ट पीक मार्जिन फॉर ट्यूसडे, I'll be levied a penalty. Okay, and then you can't recover the penalty from the client who is actually the guy, the person who is at fault. That seems totally unfair. So anyways, we will take this up with the CCs, but point has been made.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Richard.
Harshi, your question, please. Harshi. Vinodji, your question, please. Kalpesh ji, your question, please.
Hello.
Yes.
Sir, this is regarding allocation part actually thoda.
Sir, abhi sir
not question है sir, छोटा सा question है एकदम.
Sir, नहीं sir, we have to stick to the agenda. Allocation के लिए please contact me anytime. I'll try to solve the problem. We'll hold another webinar for allocation, but let's stick to this particular agenda for the Gay Council.
सर आपने पीपीटी में एक आपने जो पीपीटी दिखाया उसमें था, इसके लिए पूछ रहा हूँ सर मैं.
Kalpesh bhai, request you to let's stick to MG13 MGTM. That was just point to ponder. Kalpesh bhai, I'm sorry.
Pankaj ji, your question, please.
Hello.
Yes.
मेरी आवाज आ रही है ना?
Yes sir.
हाँ, और मेरा सवाल ये था कि मतलब जो अपफ्रंट मार्जिन की डेफिनेशन है कि बिफोर ट्रेड, और अभी एक मेरे मित्र ने पूछा था जो हेज ब्रेक करने पे जो मार्जिन लग रहा है, तो मेरा तो सजेशन ये है कि वो मतलब पेनल्टी क्लाइंट को पास होनी चाहिए, क्योंकि क्लाइंट ने कोई नया ट्रेड तो किया नहीं, और जब उसने ट्रेड किया था, उत्तम जी ने जैसे अभी आंसर दिया, बड़ा मतलब बनीला आंसर दे दिया कि क्लाइंट ने सपोज 10 लाख रुपया दिया था और उसने एक ट्रेड किया और उस 10 लाख रुपए मार्जिन लग रहा था और हेज करके उसको लग गया 3 लाख रुपए, 7 लाख पे उसने दूसरी पोजीशन उठा ली. अभी क्लाइंट को भी नहीं पता इतना डीपली कि उसका कौन सी पोजीशन काटने से मार्जिन बढ़ने वाला है, और आरएमएस में भी किसी के मतलब 5,000 10,000 क्लाइंट काम कर रहे हैं तो आरएमएस में भी उतना अलर्ट नहीं आता. तो एकदम से मार्जिन बढ़ना जब तक आएगा, मैं पोजीशन उसकी स्क्वायर अप करूंगा आरएमएस में, और तब तक वो मार्जिन इंक्रीज में आ जाता है और उसकी पेनल्टी मुझे लगने वाली है. तो मतलब आई डोंट थिंक ये पेनल्टी हम क्यों क्लाइंट को पास नहीं कर सकते.
Yeah, this breaking of hedge position, the market
yes,
shoots up. In fact मेरा बहुत ही सुंदर आरएमएस सिस्टम है भी. यदि एक क्लाइंट ने हेज पोजीशन ब्रेक करके, सपोज he's at 80% मार्जिन रियलाइजेशन, उसने एक हेज ब्रेक किया तो he becomes 200% सपोज. और मेरा आरएमएस इतना सुंदर है कि 1 नैनो सेकंड में दूसरा साइड सरखा कर दिया. ठीक है, इससे बेहतर तो मैं हो नहीं सकता. उसके बावजूद यदि ये करने के बावजूद आप पीक शॉर्टेज पीक मार्जिन करेक्शन शॉर्टेज की पेनल्टी लगाएंगे और पेनल्टी पास ऑन नहीं करने देंगे, तो अगेन सर दिस सीम्स लाइक अ वेरी तो नहीं है ना पंकज जी, यही कह रहे हैं ना.
यस उत्तम जी, वो भी तो सेबी का ही डिसीजन था ना कि अगर इंट्राडे मार्जिन इंक्रीज होने से और उससे होने से अगर भी पेनल्टी आ रही है तो आप क्लाइंट को पास कर सकते हो.
नहीं,
वो भी सेबी का ही डिसीजन था.
नहीं, ऐसा कोई डिसीजन नहीं है. इंट्राडे मार्जिन बढ़ने से क्लाइंट को पास कर सकते हो, ऐसा नहीं था, नहीं है अभी भी. बट पॉइंट पंकज जी कुछ साइड ट्रैक करें. पॉइंट ये है कि सिंपल सीधा चलते हैं ना. मैं प्लेन वनीला इसलिए करता हूँ, एक्सप्लेन स्पिरिट पे पहुंचना आसान हो जाता है कि हेज पोजीशन क्लाइंट ने ब्रेक किया, मेरे आरएमएस ने 1 नैनो सेकंड में दूसरा साइड भी उड़ा दिया, उसको जीरो कर दिया. ठीक है, जो इससे बेहतर आरएमएस हो नहीं सकता. फिर उसके लिए मुझे पेनल्टी लगेगा, मैं क्लाइंट को पास ऑन नहीं कर सकता. ये भी सर ये भी जाती है. रिक्वेस्टिंग एक्सचेंज टू काइंडली लुक इनटू द मैटर. दिस सीम्स सी, एक तो पेनल्टी लगनी नहीं चाहिए. अब किसी कारणवश अपने लग भी गए तो उसके लगनी चाहिए जिसके वजह से ये हुआ. और इफ यदि एक्सचेंजेस ये स्टैंड लेते हैं कि कोई क्लाइंट का हेज पोजीशन है जिसका सफिशिएंट मार्जिन नहीं है, तो आरएमएस उसको वन साइड भी स्क्वायर अप नहीं करने देना चाहिए. तो ये स्टैंड लेती है, तो अगेन दैट इज वी आर डूइंग अ ग्रेट डिसर्विस टू द क्लाइंट, बिकॉज नो हेज पोजीशन can be squared up at the same point of time. There'll always be 1 nanosecond difference at least, if not more. So
issues वही है
पंकज जी, यही पॉइंट है ना.
मैं अगर क्लाइंट को इस पेन का बेनिफिट नहीं देता तब भी क्लाइंट कंप्लेन कर देता है एनएससी और सीबी में जाके मैं उसको मतलब
सर आप समझिए, एक जो है ना, कई बार होता है अपने एक्सचेंजेस, दिस इज फॉर यू, कई बार होके हम आपसे लड़ते हैं, इसलिए लड़ते हैं बिकॉज आप हमारे हो, ठीक है, परायों से क्या लड़ेंगे। और दूसरा, वी वांट यू टू बी आवर चैंपियंस फॉर आवर जेन्युइन इश्यूज बिफोर द अथॉरिटीज, so please take us in that spirit, and members, I can assure you, I have been a part of regulatory discussion since decades, and the amount of effort that MI has put to explain the regulator of the practical issues that we face is not funny. जब वहां से 200 फरमान आते हैं, उसमें से 100 को MIS रोक देते हैं, ये बोल के, समझा के, ऑब्वियसली कन्विंस करके कि सर ये संभव नहीं है, एंड अथॉरिटीज कन्विंस होते हैं, और 100 फरमान आगे आते हैं, 100 को भी इम्प्लीमेंट करने में काफी मदद करते हैं। But sometimes if a regulatory mind is made on a particular manner, even the MIS can't do anything, but we can only represent to them, and they can represent on our behalf to the authorities. So on this particular matter, I hope we are able to convince you of the genuineness of a problem.
Thanks for the consideration, Uttam ji. So categorically, definitely we had so many presentations on this, but yes, as of now, the decision of regulator is that in the sense there should not be any levy of penalty to the client on this particular aspect.
But sir, आज के वेबिनार को कोट करके यदि एक बार वापस आप कोशिश कर सकें हमारे लिए तो बड़ी मेहरबानी। हाँ जी पंकज जी, I hope
उत्तम जी, उसमें क्वेश्चन वही है ना कि आज मैं स्पेंड बेनिफिट देना बंद कर देता हूँ या मतलब पोजीशन काट देता हूँ, उसके बाद भी क्या होता है, क्लाइंट कहता है ठीक है जी आप नहीं कर रहे, दूसरा ब्रोकर कर रहा है,
सर
तो हमने बिजनेस भी बिजनेस भी करना है, और
सर दूसरे ब्रोकर को पेनल्टी लगेगा ना।
सर सवाल है, मेरा क्लाइंट तो चला जाएगा ना।
सर मैं थोड़ा मजे ले रहा था, बट सर पॉइंट आपके सही है।
नहीं सर, मजे लेने वाली बात ये मतलब आपने बोला,
मैं थोड़ी हल्की फुल्की बात कर रहा था सर।
सवाल क्या है ना सर, आज की डेट में क्या होता है कि क्लाइंट ने अगर मैंने पोजीशन उसकी स्क्वायर कर दी, कुछ कह दिया, कहता है नहीं जी वो सेकंड ब्रोकर तो ऐसे कर रहा है, मैं तो जा रहा हूँ आपसे।
हाँ,
तो बेसिकली आप देखो ना आज की डेट में कितने जो
पंकज जी ये इशू रेगुलेटर के सामने लेके जाएंगे और लेट्स होप कुछ हो।
जी बट मतलब उसने मतलब ये आप हेजिंग
सर आपका, हम सब ब्रोकर्स हैं, ये दुख सबका सेम है सर, ऐसा मत करो सर। एक्सचेंजेस भी समझते हैं हमारी व्यथा, ऐसा उनका अंडरएस्टिमेट मत करो। अच्छे लोग हैं,
मैं किसी को कोट नहीं कर रहा, बट एक्सचेंज से भी बात करते हैं तो उन्होंने कहते हैं जब वो सेबी वो कंसल्टेशन पेपर लेके आई थी तब आप कहाँ थे।
ठीक है सर,
प्रैक्टिकल जो इश्यूज हैं ये बहुत मतलब
बिल्कुल सही है पंकज जी, बट थैंक्स फॉर दैट फीडबैक सर। एक बार आगे प्रोग्राम को आगे बढ़ाते हैं।
सागर जी, योर क्वेश्चन प्लीज। सागर जी
सर मिथिल बात कर रहा हूँ।
हाँ बोलिए।
सर क्वेश्चन ये था, एमटीएफ में प्लेज पड़ा है स्टॉक 1 लाख का पोस्ट हेयर कट, और 1 लाख का लेजर है एमटीएफ में। क्लाइंट ने पोजीशन ली 10 बजे, स्क्वायर ऑफ कर दी 2 बजे। बेसिकली क्लाइंट ने पोजीशन ले ली सर
नॉर्मल ट्रेडिंग में।
हाँ नॉर्मल ट्रेडिंग में। अभी तो उसका एमटीएफ मतलब
नॉर्मल ट्रेडिंग लेजर नील है और जो पैसा पड़ा एमटीएफ लेजर में पड़ा हुआ है। दैट्स व्हाट यू से।
करेक्ट ओके लेकिन क्लाइंट के पास पैसा पड़ा है एमटीएफ में।
एमटीएफ लेजर है ना।
करेक्ट है सर।
तो नॉर्मल ट्रेडिंग लेजर को एमटीएफ लेजर से कोई मतलब नहीं है, वो आपको पोजीशन लेने ही नहीं देना चाहिए था।
सर मेरा सवाल तो कंप्लीट होने दीजिए।
ओके,
मेरा सवाल ही कंप्लीट नहीं हुआ सर मैंने 10 बजे मेरे क्लाइंट ने 10 बजे पोजीशन ली थी, उसने 2 बजे स्क्वायर ऑफ कर दी, उसने एमटीएफ में बिल्ड ही नहीं होने दी पोजीशन, उसने स्क्वायर ऑफ कर दी। अब ये ट्रेड को आप कैसे रिपोर्ट करेंगे, मार्जिन कलेक्टेड या नॉट कलेक्टेड?
My reaction would be not collected if exchanges could confirm.
2 लाख का मार्जिन था उसके पास पोस्ट हेयर कट, सॉरी 1 लाख का पोस्ट हेयर कट प्लेज था और 1 लाख का लेजर में था। अब उसने मतलब 2 लाख का मार्जिन यूज किया, 2 लाख का मार्जिन उसने यूज किया था, वो स्क्वायर ऑफ कर दिया 2 बजे। सो हाउ विल यू ट्रीट दिस ट्रांजैक्शन? एंड ऑफ द डे आप कैसे उसको कलेक्टेड बताएंगे या
exchanges? Could you answer that question?
This particular transaction which you are doing, this is not an MTF transaction. There is no funding done by the trading member. This is a normal transaction which you are allowing client to do. So categorically, this is a shortfall which you have to report to the exchange.
It's
there is no upfront margin.
बिल्कुल सही, it's a short margin and it is a penalty which you cannot recover. However,
Okay.
in this case, before the market begins, you have transferred, say MTF में extra पैसा पड़ेगा, right? If you have transferred the money from the MTF books to the normal books,
Okay.
and you don't use it in the MTF books, then it's a normal ledger balance. See, you have to understand how the exchanges both the entire set of brokers of books of brokers, MTF books and normal books. Normal books do not care about MTF. MTF books do not care about normal. There's a clear segregation. We should not look there. The only exception made is when it's an MTF trade, but the margins is calculated in the normal books. That's the only exception that has been given. So if you move it across books, then there's no problem. Then it is no longer MTF money, it is the normal money. If it is a normal, I'm using the word normal for the lack of a better technical word. But if it is normal ledger ka balance है, then you can report as margin. But MTF में ledger में balance पड़ा हुआ है, that you cannot look somewhere else and report as normal. That is the spirit.
Okay, I have another question. Suppose if there is a marginal funding client, which is other than the MTF client, or you can say SMTF, and if client has taken the position during the day, like the similar way. Suppose I have a client has a we have a NBFC arm and shares are pledged in NBFC, and now suppose if client has done the trade,
Mr. Sagar, can you please tell me from which broking entity you are from?
Sir, that's let's not go in that direction. Yes, let people ask a question. Sir, but Sagar bhai, just remember, brokers, a broking arm cannot take any cognizance of what's happening in NBFC or any third party or finance or anything. Okay.
So
as
own
a broker,
NBFC,
own NBFC, group NBFC, subsidiary NBFC, holding NBFC, the group bank, you cannot take cognizance. A broker cannot get involved in any kind of funding arrangement between the client and the financer. That is between the client and the financer. Repeatedly from the last 20 years, exchanges have been issuing instructions on these lines.
Okay, sir.
So please don't do that. Even if you're a bank.
No, sir, we are not doing that. First of all,
so then please don't ask these questions. If I want to do this illegal activities, you can't start with this question. A theoretical illegal activity is also illegal activity, and we can't answer those questions, man.
Okay, sir. Okay. First of all, I am not Sagar. I am Mithil Karikar.
अरे जो भी है यार, अभी मेरे स्क्रीन में सागर हो तो आप सागर हो.
Yes. No, I am just clarifying.
I know Mithil,
yeah. So public should know. I mean, who is asking the question?
Okay.
Yes.
सागर नहीं Mithil है, इसको पीटेंगे. चलो.
Yeah. Thanks. Done. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any more questions, Mithil?
Yes, Naveen ji, your question. Rakesh ji, your question.
गुड इवनिंग सर.
हाँ जी.
हुकुम.
सर मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है, जैसे मेरा जो चारों सेगमेंट का कंबाइंड लेजर है, एमसीएक्स एफओ एनएससी बीएससी, क्लाइंट उसका क्लाइंट का लेजर
सेगमेंट वाइज लेजर भी है, कंबाइंड भी है, दोनों ऑप्शन
मतलब चारों सेगमेंट मिला के हम लोग कंबाइंड यूज कर रहे हैं.
ठीक है, करना इनफैक्ट यू आर सपोज्ड टू. ठीक है.
हाँ, अभी क्लाइंट का लेजर 1 लाख रुपए लेजर क्रेडिट है. क्लाइंट 3.5 तक एनएससी कैश में काम कर रहा है, 3.5 के बाद में एमसीएक्स में काम कर रहा है, दोनों जगह पीक मार्जिन यूज कर रहा है.
सर मैंने उसके एक स्पेसिफिक एग्जांपल बनाया था कि आप रिपोर्ट कर सकते हो. ये एग्जांपल लिया भी था मैंने. एक सेगमेंट में खेला, फिर दूसरे में खेलना मतलब ट्रेड किया. सॉरी, हम लोग बाजार वाले वो यूज करते हैं.
बराबर है, वो हम लोग दोनों जगह का पीक मार्जिन उसको फुलफिल कर रहे हैं कि क्लाइंट लेजर अगर क्लाइंट
कोई दिक्कत ही नहीं है.
क्लाइंट अगर कैश में स्टॉक सेल करता है, उसका 80% जो बेनिफिट मिलता है वो भी दे सकते हैं. अर्ली पेन का भी
बिल्कुल दे सकते हैं. इनफैक्ट एक्सचेंज का सर्कुलर कहता है कि आपको मार्जिन रिपोर्ट के तहत ऑल एक्सचेंजेस कंसीडर करना है एक्सेप्ट एमटीएफ. इनफैक्ट आप कंसीडर नहीं कर रहे तो आप गलत कर रहे हैं.
अर्ली पेन नहीं कर रहे थे, अब तक आप प्लेज कर रहे थे.
नहीं, अर्ली पेन भी कंसीडर करना है, बिकॉज अर्ली पेन का जो भी बेनिफिट है यू आर सपोज्ड टू पोस्ट इन द लेजर, वो भी रिक्वायरमेंट है. तो ऑल सेगमेंट ऑल लेजर में अर्ली पेन का लेजर भी आ गया ना भाई.
तो अर्ली पेन कंसीडर कर सकते हैं मींस.
सर यदि आप नहीं करें तो आप क्लाइंट के साथ बहुत बुरा कर रहे हैं सर. ये क्लाइंट का हक है, और जो क्लाइंट का हक है उसे देना हमारा ड्यूटी है बॉस.
ओके सर. ओके, थैंक यू.
राइट एक्सचेंजेस, हैव आई गॉट एनीथिंग रॉन्ग हियर?
No, you are right.
Thank you sir.
Uttam sir, there's one more. Gaurav. Gaurav ji, your question, please. Gaurav ji. Jitin ji, your question.
हेलो।
हाँ जी, ये जितिन।
उत्तम जी, अभी ने Q&A में मिस्टर साकर उपाध्याय ने क्वेश्चन लिखा था कि अगर अपफ्रंट मार्जिन की मेरे को कोई चेक, क्लाइंट ने कोई चेक दिया फ्रंट मार्जिन कहकर और वो चेक क्लाइंट का बाउंस हो गया, तो क्या हम वो पेनल्टी जो है वो क्लाइंट को पास ऑन कर सकते हैं, नहीं कर सकते हैं? उसमें एस बैलम ने एनएससी से रिप्लाई किया कि पेनल्टी कैन नॉट बी पास ऑन टू क्लाइंट फॉर द चेक बाउंसेस केसेस। ठीक है, 2020 का सर्कुलर है एनएससी का ही।
अरे बाबू रुक जाओ, अब फिर शायद आप सुने नहीं। मैंने कहा 21 अक्टूबर 2021 के पहले
12 अक्टूबर 2021
12 अक्टूबर 2021 के पहले आप कर सकते हैं, उसके बाद नहीं कर सकते। आपने 12 अक्टूबर 2021 का एक्सचेंज का सर्कुलर पढ़ा है?
पेनल्टी के रिगार्डिंग
पेनल्टी पढ़ा। हाँ, तो पहले इनका जो जुलाई 20 में सर्कुलर आया था, बोले ले सकते हो। फिर उन्होंने 12 अक्टूबर को एक नया सर्कुलर निकाला, बट पॉइंट नंबर 15 को रिवाइज कर दिया। अब बोले वो वाला पॉइंट उड़ा दिया चेक वाला।
ओके, ठीक है।
हाँ जितिन जी,
मैं पढ़ लेता हूँ सर्कुलर।
परफेक्ट जितिन जी,
थैंक यू।
This actually many members missed it. Many members really, but because it was so check return तो ले सकते क्लाइंट, so we didn't. Anyway, we'll take a couple of more questions and then call it a day.
Yes sir, just waiting. Sir, Gaurav ji, your question please. Gaurav ji.
No, we can't hear his voice.
Request to unmute yourself. हाँ जी, Gaurav ji, yes.
यस सर, मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि जैसे आज मेरे क्लाइंट ने शेयर बेचे हैं 1 लाख रुपए के करीब, 80,000 का उसने ईपीएन का बेनिफिट आज मुझे देना है उसको, और कल एनएससी में हॉलीडे है सर, 26 को मान लीजिए एनएससी में हॉलीडे है। अभी क्लाइंट ने शाम के एमसीएक्स में पोजीशन ले ली और कल अर्ली पेन का बेनिफिट तो उसको है ही नहीं, क्योंकि 27 को रिवर्सल आने वाला है सर। 27 को कल 26 को अर्ली पेन का बेनिफिट नहीं है उसको एक्सचेंज से।
नहीं,
27 को बेनिफिट मिलेगा ना सर 100% का?
आपने मंडे, सुनिए मैं आपका क्वेश्चन रिपीट करता हूँ। मंडे को 100 रुपए का माल बेचा, अर्ली पेन कर दिया।
यस सर।
हमारे पास 80 अवेलेबल है मंडे को। ट्यूसडे को बाजार बंद है।
जी सर।
लेकिन एक बाजार बंद है, पर ट्यूसडे को आपको पूरा 100 रुपए अवेलेबल है भाई।
नहीं सर।
हाँ,
T+1 पे तो 100 रुपीज आएगा ना सर। T+1 तो इसका एनएससी में तो बुधवार को आएगा ना सर, मतलब।
हाँ, लेकिन आपको उसके आप समझो, अर्ली पेन का जो भी सौदा होता है आपको लेजर में पोस्ट करना है, आपको पता है ये बात?
यस सर।
तो आपने मंडे को बेचा तो आपने लेजर में पोस्ट कर दिया मंडे को ही। अर्ली पेन का जो लेजर बनाते हैं ना अलग से, कुछ लोग मिक्स करते हैं, कुछ अलग बनाते हैं, कुछ लोग वर्चुअल करते हैं, लेकिन लेजर आप मेंटेन करते हैं। ओके, वो लेजर का बैलेंस मंडे को आ गया। अब एक्चुअल पेन ट्यूसडे को हो, वेडनेसडे को, थर्सडे को 2 या 3 छुट्टी आ जाए, उस दिन से जिस दिन पेन हो गया मंडे को, उस दिन से वो पैसा अवेलेबल है फॉर मार्जिन रिपोर्टिंग फॉर अदर क्लाइंट्स। वो है, वो क्लाइंट का हक है, उसने माल बेचा है, अर्ली पेन किया है, उसने मार्जिन दिया है। गौरव जी, हैव आई आंसर्ड योर क्वेश्चन?
यस सर।
थैंक यू सर। चलिए मुकुल भाई, आई थिंक there's one. We will take the last question this week.
Yes. Uttam sir, Kuldeep ji, your question please.
हेलो।
यस सर।
हाय सर, कुलदीप है सर। मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि जब एक्सचेंज मार्जिन अपफ्रंट का ब्रोकर को ही पुश होना है और सब कुछ ब्रोकर को ही जाना है, तो रेगुलेटरी एक ऐसा सर्कुलर क्यों नहीं इश्यू कर सकता है कि जिसमें क्लाइंट को भी बाउंड किया जाए कि उसको पेइंग सुबह 10 o'clock से पहले करना है अगर एमटोएम है आज का तो, और अगर आज इनिशियल मार्जिन इंक्रीज होता है तो उसका पेमेंट भी उसको 6 o'clock से पहले करना है। रेगुलेटरी को इस तरह का सर्कुलर पास करना चाहिए जो क्लाइंट को बाउंड करे कि 6 o'clock से पहले आप पेइंग करिए फॉर टुडेज मार्जिन, फॉर टुमारो इफ इट इज एमटोएम देन टुमारो बिफोर 10 o'clock आप पेइंग करिए।
कुलदीप जी, सजेशन नोटेड।
बिकॉज़ ये तो हर तरह से अपन ब्रोकर ही बाउंड हो रहा है।
बिल्कुल सर, सजेशन नोट कर लिया सर।
थैंक यू सर।
हाँ जी।
Yes, Uttam sir, good to go.
Okay, so we come to an end of a webinar. First of all, my deepest thanks and appreciation to BSc, NSC, MCX, and MCX. Right, taking Q&A for whenever we try to hold education seminars, we always get support from the MIs, and MIs always privately बोलते हैं तुम्हें मेंबर लोग यार बहुत डांटते हैं बोला बॉस लेकिन हमारी तकलीफ हम अपनों को डांट सकते हैं they care obviously on a lighter way, and they are we all on the same side, we all on the side of the capital markets. So again, thank you very much for being a part of this program. BBF always tries to reduce non-compliance of ignorance, because there's nothing you can do about non-compliance of intent. And the non-compliance of ignorance can be reduced only by more education seminars, more interactive sessions. And for such sessions, again, thank you very much, Exchanges, for being a part of this program and answering the questions to members and giving us some idea of the both of the spirit and the letter of the law that goes. So much appreciate. Thank you, and thank you participants for being a part of this program.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good day. Chaliye. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Bye. 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 Bye.